Hey there, everybody. Yeah, I'm in the dark room, and I want to talk about what's under here. What I've got for you. I spent last night in the dark room. Let me get the glare off that. So there you go. Yeah, it might not be the greatest photograph in the world, but it's a darkroom print and it's matted. And just to see what that was all about. That was from a Pentax 6.7 negative, sharp camera. Very impressive, tasty. 4x5. That was Shoshone Falls a few years back. This was the 4x5, and that's a work print. I have a better one of that. I kept dropping the contrast. This was a very contrasty print. But yeah, 4x5, and then Pentax 6.7 again. And I have a video on this one. This is one of the images I got when I was up on Catherine Creek up there. Pentax 6.7 is tasty. Not that the 4x5 isn't. I mean, but the Pentax 6.7, man, it's enjoyable to print and shoot and everything. So yeah. Okay, under here, I'm gonna have to adjust the camera so you can see this better. So yeah, so you take your ground glass off and you put the light head, LED light head, pop it on there, and then that sits down where the ground glass went, and then there's your film holders. Okay, that one's for 4x5. I have the other ones for 6.7, etc. And you put your negative in there, and you just slide it in like a dark slide, and then there it is. You push the button, you dial in what you want. Here is 0, which is green for contrast. And then if you dial it up to 5, you get blue. It works a treat. I mean, it works great with the Ilford papers. And then you even have a setting for white light if you want to do contact prints, which is brilliant. And it's timed in half-second increments. And it works well. The criticism would be the controls on the timer are kind of fiddly. Like, they're not real precise. A lot of times I'm pushing buttons and nothing's happening. I'm not sure. I mean, eventually it works, but I'm not sure what the problem is. So it'd be nice if that was a little bit more precise, but for the money, I can't complain. To be honest with you, this works so well, I kind of wish it was made a little bit better. I'd pay more money for it. But your light source in a dark room for your enlarger is the biggest bugaboo. That is the hardest thing. The best enlarger I've got, the Bessler 45 MX Mark II, which is probably 50, 60 years old, finding a light source for it is a real problem. So I would love to have a light source of this quality on that enlarger. As it is, I have the, it's just off camera here, I have probably a 60, 70-year-old Bessler condenser that's in beautiful shape. I got it for $50 off of eBay, and there's nothing wrong with a condenser enlarger. It's just a little bit more contrast. Sorry, it's cutting my head off, but this is tight. So yeah, I'm going to order some parts for my Bessler. I'm going to get the baseboard and the correct rails to make it 100%. I'm going to throw the condenser on it and have a condenser enlarger because it's nice to have. And rumor has it Bessler's coming out with an LED multi-grade head. They have a color head, an LED color head, but it's $4,500 or so. Hopefully, yeah, I don't know. The multi-grade LED head's probably going to be like $2,500, which is going to be really hard to justify. We'll see. The big problem with the condenser heads was always when you put a 60 or 75 watt light bulb in the top, the condensers would channel that heat down to the negative. I'm curious, now that we have LED light bulbs, and I got this one, it's 2700K color temperature, and it works. I've made some enlargements with this. There's no heat, or very little heat, because it's not a tungsten filament. So I'm curious to see, like, kind of old tech meets new tech, right? An LED light bulb in an old condenser head. That could be interesting. So that's something I definitely want to play with. And the Bessler Enlarger, I don't have it here now. I took it out into the garage to clean it all up. But the Bessler Enlarger is much easier when you want to swap back and forth between a 4x5 negative and a 6x7 negative. You know, you rack up the bellows to the 6x7 setting and you just pop a different lens in. That's a problem with the Intrepid Enlarger when you use your 4x5 for an enlarger, because when I go, so I have to, I guess I don't have to use the recessed lens board for my 150 millimeter lens, but it's the only lens board I got that kind of fits. And the other recessed lens board I got with the original the original Intrepid Enlarger, like they modified it so it would take the bigger lenses. It doesn't really fit this lens. And it doesn't fit my 80 millimeter lens either. So that lens board's kind of useless. I'm still figuring that out. So I have to swap the lenses off of this lens board. I only have one lens board that fits. I need to see if I can change some things and maybe make that work. Maybe if I turned this around and went back to the same hole, that might, I don't know. I'm still working on that. So the swapping is a problem. What I really need to do is just say, okay, tonight's going to be a 4x5 night. Tomorrow's going to be a 6x7 night. Fair enough. The other thing is that when you do that, you run the risk, because you got to take the front standard off and change the hole. Here, I'll do it. It was all aligned, but it's okay. I'm not printing now. So, and this is what you have to do. You have to unscrew the front standard, right? Which is fiddly, to say the least. And there's the front standard off, and then you got to move it up to the next hole back. It's pretty much the same holes that you would use for your taking lenses. In other words, like the hole that I use for the 80 is all the way back, and the hole that I use for the 135, which I use for the 4x5, is in the second hole up, which is what I use for my 135 taking lens. So my 90 goes in the back hole. So there it is. Okay, so that's a pain. And then aligning it is not so bad. It works out pretty good, but you do run the risk, and I know it's going to happen, of making a print where one side or the other might be a little off. Okay, so it's not the most precise thing in the world for repeatability, and that can be an issue. But on the other hand, like I made 4 different prints last night, and from 2 different size negatives, and I was moving things around and moving pretty fast because I wanted to just test it in the heat of the action. It did well. It did really well. The prints are sharp side to side, and yeah, no complaints. So yeah, the other thing is I did some fiber-based paper and I did some resin-coated paper, and I really can't see a difference. I really love the fiber-based papers, but Michael Kenna nowadays prints on the resin-coated glossy, so I got a box of that coming. This is resin-coated pearl. The old resin-coated 4 wasn't quite the same as the fiber-based, but this new deluxe Mark V resin-coated paper, it's hard to see the difference. The tonality's different, but I wouldn't say it's worse. I wouldn't say fiber-based is better. And when you get that dry mounted to a board, yeah, I could see where it's a lot faster processing too. Like the wash time is 2 minutes versus an hour. So yeah, and the development time's a minute versus 3. So it moves much quicker in the darkroom. You can get a lot more ground covered. I really like that. So there it is. So, okay, yeah, this is the Intrepid Enlarger deal. And what I did, let me take this off, I'll show you. So how I mounted this is a Smith Victor copy stand. It's one of the cheapest copy stands they make. I think it was like $200-300 new. But what I did was, because I was swapping this camera in and out, I put a quick release on it. So the only downside to the Smith Victor copy stand was this mount here. It was some plastic piece of junk. So this is one of those floor samples from Home Depot, and I drilled it out and drilled some holes in it and mounted a quick release plate. And the quick release plate always on the camera. And so I just, when I want to, I'm not doing this anymore because now I have the Gen 5 Intrepid 4x5. So that's my field camera, and then this camera here, my Gen 4, I've dedicated to enlarger duty, and so there it is. Yeah, and so and the Home Depot laminated floorboard is much more solid than that piece of junk, plastic piece of junk that the Smith Victor came with. So maybe that helps somebody out if you're interested. But yeah, this color head, it's literally a color head for this thing. So even if you want to do color printing, you could do that. I mean, it's amazing. The only thing is, the only real complaint I have is it's fiddly to switch formats, but it's doable. And the buttons aren't very precise. I mean, when I'm changing times, I push the buttons, and many times it just kind of gets hung up or something. So rumor has it there's a new firmware out for this. So that would be cool too. But yeah, it's a color head and it's a variable contrast head too. And the VC works perfectly. It's really nice to use. So yeah, so there it is. Like, subscribe, hit the bell for notifications. We'll see you out there. We'll see you in the darkroom.